Hello and welcome to Big Picture. I am Vishal Dahiya and today we will talk about artificial intelligence and humans. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi has urged business leaders and technocrats to build a bridge between artificial intelligence and human interactions. In fact, artificial intelligence has penetrated several aspects of our life in the past few years. The government, on its part, has been vocal about its intention to mainstream artificial intelligence applications, and several ministries along with NITI Aayog have come up with various recommendations to enhance the use of artificial intelligence. So what are the various policies on this aspect and how can they be used to further implement artificial intelligence or AI in emerging areas? For more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of guests. Today, let me first introduce these guests to you, beginning with Mr. Jiten, Jain, cyber analyst with us. We also have with us Mr. Arnab Kumar, the Program Director of Frontier Technologies in NITI Aayog. We're also joined by Dr. Murali Mohan. He's Mission Director, National Mission on Interdisciplinary Cyber Physical Systems in the Ministry of Science and Technology, that is NM-ICPS. And we also have with us Professor Mausam, who is Associate Professor in IIT Delhi and somebody who's been closely and very intricately working on the topic of artificial intelligence. So let me begin with you, Jiten, and let's try and take an overview of this particular topic. One, what is artificial intelligence? When we say that AI is making its presence felt in several spheres of human existence nowadays, what are we trying to convey?
So, I mean, for general people, the simplest definition of AI, what you could put through is basically a computer intelligence, or you could say, a computer trying to mimic a human behavior, the human mind's cognitive functions, and, machine trying to act as human. This is the most simplest definition what you could give for a common man. And how AI could change your lives, we're already seeing, the disruptions in transportation sector, I mean, autonomous self-driving cars. We are, looking at defense sector where we are seeing autonomous weapons trying to save human lives, trying to do rescue operations. Weaponized drones, which Americans have been using those for 15 years. If you look at the medical sector, you have got, tools like IBM Watson, which have trained themselves over a data of 50, 60 years over all the cancer research, and then trying to act as a doctor, trying to complement a doctor with the research and the right medicine or the right dose they could prescribe. But, if you look at the entire Indian context, if you leave these big things apart, where this, small little things come in, what we are seeing in India that, a country like China, which is spending $30 billion, in their budget for the next 5 years for AI, US is almost trying to match that amount. What we have here in India that, we are in the very beginning of this AI journey. A majority of our companies which are, trying to sell AI products are technically digitizing data and doing some data analytics, and they're calling it AI, which is not. So we're in the very primitive stage.
Okay.
There are certain startups which have done wonderful work, especially in the facial recognition, predictive intelligence. So that's where, a lot of innovations are coming in, because for last 30 years, we never had structural data. We had data lying here and there. We didn't have a digitized form of data. So one of the most crucial element of any successful AI product is the quality of data and the quantum of data on which your product is trained, be it facial recognition or be it predictive policing. So India is a trove of data, like health sector, medical sector. We have so much of data which was just lying, dumb somewhere. So what government in the last 5 to 7 years have been trying to do is trying to put most of the data, like toll collection data, railway data online, and they're allowing people to use it. Defense sector is opening up. So defense forces are trying to, provide their radar data, flying data to the startups so that they could, innovate upon that data. So that's where the opportunity lies in India. At the same time, we have to be very careful that, like the Make in India campaign, several companies took advantage of it, coming from foreign countries, and they started assembling in India and they call it Made in India product. That should never happen in AI, because if any foreign company comes in here and they give you some sort of proposal that, look, we will develop an India specific AI product, just give us your data, we have to be very careful that we don't end up parting with that data. We don't make that mistake. We have to ensure that Indian data remain in Indian hands so that innovations happen from the Indian startups or Indian companies or the Indian government sector.
Okay, so we've begin our journey, and we'll have to be mindful of several aspects here. Arnab, let me bring you in. And, NITI Aayog had come up with this National Strategy for Artificial Intelligence, the discussion paper. And it details out as to what, institutions we need to have, what sort of ecosystem we need to create. So where are we on that to
Sure.
address all these aspects which Jiten has pointed out and move ahead in our journey, which we have begun as far as artificial intelligence is concerned?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for asking that question. First thing that we need to establish is that artificial intelligence itself is a very broad topic. It has been in vogue for past 70, 80 years. What we have seen in the last 10 years is a specific branch of artificial intelligence, which is machine learning, and more specifically deep learning that has come into vogue. So we have to understand from that perspective. So it's unfair to say a certain country or a certain set of countries have unfair advantage on this as far as development is concerned. And that's why what we did when we were building the strategy for India was we understood what is the current status of adoption of and research of artificial intelligence in India, where do we excel and where do we lack, and have a very good understanding of the baseline, and then give the recommendations. The things that we understood were, first of all, we brought a strategy which has a three-tier framework. First of all, the economic opportunity of artificial intelligence-induced solutions is huge. It's about $1 trillion. Second is how we want to utilize this as a country. It has to be a social and inclusive usage of artificial intelligence. And finally, as was mentioned, we have the strength of use cases and data. So India has to be positioned as something like an AI garage for the world. So that is very, very important. And based on these, we gave a set of recommendations. The first was we want to have capabilities in research, both fundamental, which is core research, and applied research, which is bringing research from academic labs to actual implementation. Second aspect was how do we increase market adoption through various data was being mentioned, so something like a data marketplace. The third aspect was how do we upskill and reskilling our generations. And fourth was a combination of focusing on factors like ethics, privacy, security, etc., and also building and bringing countries and entities that have common problems across this through a very ambitious program called AI for All Alliance. So we released this strategy in June 2018. It has been adopted as India's national strategy for artificial intelligence. We are in the middle of a program to bring a set of recommendations that could be implemented to have our own set of leadership, which we have titled AI for All. And these include building 5 centers for fundamental research, about 10 centers for applied research, building a large common compute infrastructure for the country so that researchers and startups don't struggle with the access to compute. And finally, launching a set of moonshot projects which expands on the technology frontier.
Okay.
So these are the basic parameters.
Okay. Let's bring in Professor Mausam here. Professor Mausam, from your perspective, how do you look at the AI scenario as far as India is concerned, and all these aspects which have been pointed out by Arnab in terms of creating the ecosystem, AI ecosystem in India, putting all these policies, all these institutions in place. So how far, in what direction are we, and how far do we have to go?
Thank you, Vishalji, for bringing me in. And I sort of actually completely agree with Arnab here. I think NITI Aayog has done a very comprehensive work in bringing out their strategy document. And one of the statistics there actually really caught my attention. They said that there are 20,000 PhDs of AI in the whole world, but in our country there are less than 400. Now think about any advanced area of research. People who have a PhD can be expected to be deep into it, can be expected to be an expert into that field. And if you really want to mobilize the whole country and create a lot of AI technology in and around, lots of startups, lots of applied research, lots of core research, lots of people who can take the jobs which are vacant. And I will come to jobs in a minute. We need people who can teach these people. We need the experts. And we had a huge dearth of experts in our country. And that is where I think NITI Aayog has also put in some thought on bringing up these centers of research excellence, where I hope that many such people will come back and migrate back to the country and will start, practicing their AI here. Slowly, this will disseminate into broader groups of people, and slowly the whole, technology group will become more and more AI ready. I believe that the 3 pillars for AI are definitely people, which is who can design algorithms, data, and compute. And I believe that NITI Aayog has done a comprehensive job on identifying how to put everything together. So they have a system called Eravat that they have proposed, which would be a compute cluster where all the researchers and a lot of practitioners and startups can plug in, so that there is no dearth of compute. You will be surprised at the kind of research challenge that we face today. in our research is because we don't have access to that high quality compute infrastructure at a large scale, which many of the topmost companies and universities have. So that kind of research that is going on, which is at the real forefront of AI, we are not even able to do because of that, right?
Okay.
So when that happens, when as Jatin mentioned that we should also put in our data that is India specific data. So think about when that India specific data with large kind of compute and then our experts, when this comes together, then we will be ready to be able to do AI.
Okay.
So while NITI Aayog has been thinking in the right direction, and I also want to commend the fact that the government has been spearheading a lot of AI activity in this country, I believe that we have some ways to go before we can achieve something, because we have not been able to see this convergence of these three streets together to become a leader in the field of AI. Just three statistics and I'll stop. India is number 5th in the number of AI companies in the world. So actually we have lots of AI companies, and it is number 5th in the number of AI jobs in the world. So we have lots of AI jobs, but it is still only 13th in the quality and quantity of AI research that gets produced, and it is far behind in making these startups a success.
Okay.
So it is great that we have startups, but we'll have to make them successful. To make them successful, we will need AI-ready people, AI-ready practitioners, which will be taught by AI researchers, which we have a dearth of. So I think it all needs to be mobilized. This ecosystem needs to come together. NITI Aayog has the right idea, but we have some ways to go.
Okay, that's quite a apt sum up there of what needs to be done, and in terms of ensuring that we reach there where we have set out to. But let me also bring in Dr. K.R. Murali Mohan here, the Director of National Mission on ICPS. Dr. Mohan, from your perspective and from the Ministry's perspective as well, how do you see the entire ecosystem which is there right now, or which we are trying to build up as far as artificial intelligence is concerned, utilization of AI in several sectors, and what more needs to be done there?
Yeah, very good. A good question. See, here I would like to talk about the National Mission on Interdisciplinary Cyber Physical System, which Department of Science and Technology is implementing. This mission covers the various technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and all the other learning techniques. Also, the other advanced technologies like robotics, artificial, the sensing and activators, and various, 25 technological verticals, that this mission is going to concentrate. AI is one of the vertical, the core component.
Okay.
So this works based on the national strategy that developed by NITI Aayog. We are implementing AI based on the strategy developed by NITI Aayog. That's number one. Number two, this which I am referring is planning to establish 25 technology innovation hubs across the country. Now, when you talk about these innovation hubs, they have a mandate of creating an ecosystem in all these technology. For example, the technology development, translation research, and as well as converting into that research into a product is one of the major aim of this particular mission.
Okay.
Similarly, number two, we are also addressing the skill development, the human resources development, and as well as the capacity building in the entire, the country. Number three, we are also concentrating on the startup ecosystem, and as well as, the entrepreneurship development. In DST, we have already 140 technology business incubators. Mission is going to connect with all these TBIs and enhance the startup ecosystem in the country.
Okay.
And the fourth, of course, the international connect. We need to have a type of international collaborations, both for cross-fertilization of ideas, and as well as the working with the other international communities to develop solutions for India-specific problems.
Okay.
That is one. The third aspect of the mission is we are taking up the India-specific solutions as the issues to tackle at the innovation hubs. Therefore, it has three baskets. One is the technology basket, another is the approach basket, and third is the issues of the India, which we are going to take up as the issues as a research problems, and to develop fundamentally solutions for these problems. These are the fundamental approach this mission is planning to do it. Now, this mission is just 6 months old, and we are in the process of creating the entire ecosystem of the interdisciplinary cyber-physical system that includes the artificial intelligence as well.
Okay, wonderful, interesting. Now that we know, Arnab, where are we headed and what are we trying to do in terms of both creating that ecosystem and also all these components as well. One important aspect here, which I would like to bring you both in, and then Professor Mausam as well, and Dr. Mohan, is the risk versus opportunity assessment as far as the utilization of artificial intelligence is concerned, and that aspect of connecting humans and AI with that bridge which the Prime Minister was talking about.
Sure. So I mentioned about $1 trillion opportunity, and if you look at the $1 trillion opportunity, there are three aspects of it. The first aspect is automation, the second aspect is augmentation, and third aspect is general increase in productivity because of the first two. For India, as far as artificial intelligence and its application is concerned, the augmentation play is the most dominant one, and we think that the value it will get is about 80 to 85%. I'll give you through an example. If you look at a sector which is very, very important to us, like healthcare, the biggest problem in healthcare in India are three: access, availability, and affordability, which simply means that we probably don't have the right number of doctors or hospitals, etc. The way we have thought about our AI interventions is augmenting the limited human capability. For example, if you look at, say, a disease area like cancer, we have an incidence of about 1 million cancer patients every year in this country. We have about 2,000 trained radiologists in this area, less than 500 oncopathologists. The way what we can do is that we can build on their capability, augment their capability, so that these limited experts focus on the most complicated cases, and the most routine cases then get automated and becomes a routine effect. For this matter, and this is where what government can do becomes very, very important. What government can do is build in the requisite infrastructure tools, and Jiten quite rightly mentioned about large data sets which are available. Large data sets which are available, which are intelligent, which are annotated, which are ready to be used by artificial intelligence is very, very important. And so one of the very important projects that we have taken, and that will probably become our first moonshot, is developing a large imaging biobank for cancer, which is a combination of radiology and pathology slides combined with patient data, etc. And we have worked with a large cancer hospital which has their digitized information for the last 12 years, and they have it's Tata Memorial Hospital, and they have been in Mumbai, they have been digitizing for a long time. What you need to do is that this trove of data needs to be made intelligent data, and that is precisely what we are doing. Once you build this, you can actually help the radiologist, the pathologist to try to understand if there is a chance for a cancer patient, and eventually you build a product that can be deployed in remote parts of this country, which may have access to, say, an MRI machine, but may not have access to, say, a radiologist to tell you whether there is a chance for you to have an incidence of cancer. So for us as a country, the big role will be augmentation, led by innovation, and artificial intelligence will be an important component of enabling that. Similar things in education, agriculture, etc.
Okay, so augmenting human capabilities. Jiten, risk versus opportunities there.
I'll tell you what, I run a startup, we have got a couple of niche AI products. And whatever suggestions or sometimes criticism or feedbacks we give is based on our Indian journey, and it's a very neutral feedback. You see, I'll tell you what. Like, let's take an example of facial recognition. We have a huge data bank in India of crime suspects with National Crime Records Bureau, including us. Several of startups have been using it to train their products. Now you have to understand that if you train your product on an American facial data set, it will be different. Indians are different, so you have to have data. Now what Google and Amazon or Microsoft are doing, they are offering you free APIs that you just plug and play our API in the software. It is free of cost for all the startups, and you use our product, which is a ready-made billion-dollar project. Their idea is that once you use our product, in return you will give us your data. So that is where they are also thinking of opportunity of grabbing data, and that's where we have to be very careful. So one of the most beautiful things in past 5 years this government, NITI Aayog and Ministry of Science and Technology are doing is thinking of facilitating, thinking of using that opportunity, thinking of creating that plug and play infrastructure. For example, creating this cloud-based computing infrastructure
for the in-house
will be a leap. because that will ensure that Indian data will remain in Indian hands.
Yeah. Okay.
And that collective pool of data of all Indian startups, all innovations will, I'm sure 100% someday will create an amazing product which will be available with Government of India. Number two, you see, we also have to offer tech as a service and data as a service.
Okay.
So suppose if Government of India has a particular tool or a facial recognition or predictive tool which is available, so offer that tool free of cost to all the startups under some sort of licensing conditions, and you tell them that you sign up an NDA, you use defense data, cut across the red tape, say that this is a data set available, even if it is sensitive data, this is the technology, come here and innovate, and whatever you build, government will share the IPR.
Okay.
Now what is happening, as a sir rightly pointed out, of 400 data scientists which are there in India, I can say that at least 200 of them are working for foreign companies or foreign cities. So we have to ensure, they will never come back, and even if they come back, they'll work for those companies.
So you're basically saying focus has
we
to
have
be on the
ensure
indigenous
that
talent.
people don't leave, people stay here. Government provides infrastructure, government provides funding, and whatever innovation happens, whatever revenue is generated is shared.
Okay.
And we also have to be responsible that whatever we make, we give it back to the society.
Okay. Professor Mausam.
I think the question is on risks and opportunities. And
Yes.
I think my fellow panelists have really had the AI Kool-Aid. So they're all about opportunities. So I'll try to tread the middle territory and also talk about risks, because there are risks and we need to be mindful of them, because until we take them head on, we will not be able to make useful and inclusive progress. So opportunities for sure, opportunities in every sector. Healthcare has already been talked about. Transportation, Pittsburgh reduced travel time by 25% just by having their travel lights managed by AI. Our own city, Surat, reduced, had a drop of 27% in the crime rate by using real-time intelligence.
Okay.
You think of education, you think of agriculture. Agriculture, Vadhwani AI has been doing pesticide recommendation for farmers based on just images of pests taken from pest traps.
Okay.
So there are lots of things that are possible, because we don't have access, as Arnab said, of experts at every little point in our village. We don't have doctors, we don't have agricultural experts, we don't have the right things going on. We have limited supply of expertise, and therefore AI, as much it can augment, it's awesome. Okay. But there is a flip side, and let me also share a little bit about the flip side, because we should be mindful. So the flip side is, I'll talk about 4 quick things: jobs, transparency, bias, and robustness. So let's talk about transparency, bias, and robustness. First, we don't know why AI algorithms make a decision that they make. Deep learning systems are a black box. There is research in infancy in trying to understand why the AI system did what it did. Now, if you have a person working with you, you say a person makes a mistake, you say, hey, why did you do this? The person can offer an explanation. AI systems cannot.
Okay.
Now, that creates, we then don't know how to work with AI systems when they go wrong. Issue number 1. Issue number 2, AI is trained from data. The data has human biases. And because AI system is trained on that data, it magnifies the biases. So some of the systems, policing systems in the US are called racist because the data it may have been trained on had some racial elements, and then they become magnified. If you ask a natural language processing system, English understanding system, man is to woman, then it will say doctor is to nurse. Because it sort of guesses that if it's a he, it has to be a doctor. If it's a she, it has to be a nurse.
So it's basically the onus lies again on us only as to what sort of data are we training the AI systems on.
But AI system, the data comes from society. Society has some biases, but they magnify in their importance when the AI system gets trained.
Okay.
That is issue number 2. Issue number 3 is robustness. There are attacks that are currently possible on the AI system, and AI system will give a very crazy answer. Like if you make some small noise in the image, which was originally a school bus, the AI system might start to feel that it's an ostrich.
Okay.
So these things have happened again and again and again. And in all these 3 areas, there's a lot of research that is currently going on in understanding how to make these AI systems more transparent, reduce the bias, and be more robust.
So again, it's a work in progress, Professor Mausam. We are running short of time, but let me have last comment from Dr. Mohan on this aspect as well, which you pointed out, Professor Mohan, in terms of the inherent risks, basically those because we don't know much about it, and the other aspect, Dr. Mohan, which Jiten also pointed out here, and Arnab is also saying about giving preference to indigenous players, Indian players, the domestic players?
Yeah, good. I think issues are being flagged in this, the discussions. In fact, taking cue from the other panelists, I would like to submit, see, India is unique. Our issues also very unique. That way, the data we generated, whatever the digitalization, whatever will happen, it is very unique to India. Similarly, to develop the solutions, we need to have our indigenous products. You cannot plug in, the products which was developed in the foreign countries, and you cannot train it, to address some of the issues. Therefore, here I can say that it's an opportunity for us. Not only artificial intelligence, in fact, any technology, it comes with its own baggage. It has its own dangers or, elimination of jobs, and also we can view it as an opportunity. Here, I would like to see the AI as an opportunity in complementing the human in developing what you call the products which can enhance the quality of living and as well as efficiency in our entire system. Therefore, the artificial intelligence, we cannot look at it as an isolated technology. We have to take it into the entire ecosystem what we are building. Therefore, the mission which I was referred earlier fundamentally is trying to create a technology-enabled society or an ecosystem wherein the entire, the gamut of, the various stakeholders have the role to play and develop these technology. Therefore, I strongly convinced that the government has a commitment. They have made available, the missions like, what I am referring, and there are a number of issues which we need to solve. There is huge amount of data is available within, the Indian shores. Therefore, all the, pyramids or, what you call the building blocks are available. Now, what is required is a type of an ecosystem creation.
And, that is where we are heading towards, Dr. Mohan, to try and build that ecosystem. Before we bring this show to an end, final quick comment from you, Arnab, on those two aspects. 30 seconds.
So absolutely. So Professor has rightly mentioned there is opportunity. There are concerns on ethics, privacy, accountability, security, and fairness. And that is where we think that we need to bring the best of experts in artificial intelligence and make India their chosen playground. Hence, large-scale investment in researchers and use cases here in India is important, and that's where I think NITI Aayog and other government departments through a national mission are going to play a critical role.
Okay, so there it is. The summary of the entire conversation is that the intervention of artificial intelligence is meant to augment the human capabilities. There are immense opportunities as far as India is concerned, and we began our journey. We are going slow as of now, trying to learn our way towards the final goal. But we are trying to build up an ecosystem as well. And as our panelists have pointed out, the government is not only vocal, but is trying to put in place that ecosystem, both in terms of institutions as well as in terms of opportunities for domestic players, as well as utilization of artificial intelligence for the benefit of mankind, that is society. We'll come back again tomorrow with a different topic, different set of guests. Till then, keep watching Rajya Sabha Television.